Hello, GM, and welcome to the fifth webinar with Nansen. Today, we are talking about defending your portfolio with on-chain data. Drop your GMs in the chat. It is great to have all of you here joining us today. My name is Charlie. I lead growth for investors at Nansen. I work with a lot of funds, market makers, sophisticated investors to help them make more money on chain and also to manage their portfolios on chain as well. And that's really what we're going to be doubling down on today. We've recently seen a bit of a dip in the markets over the last few months, and using a tool like Nansen can help you to monitor the market depth more effectively, so you can ideally not lose any money in this depth and ideally continue to make money as well. So very excited to have you all here today. We're going to show you some interesting workflows on Nansen. But before I get stuck into it and share my screen, I'll hand it over to James to share a bit of an intro as well.
Hey Charlie, thank you very much, and welcome back to everyone that's joining us here for another Power Hour session. My name is James, for those of you that don't know, and I'm an Alpha and community manager in the Alpha Discord at Nansen. And on top of that, I'm also a CSM. So I help a lot of our professional users learn how to use the product, learn how to understand how to interpret the data, to best make decisions for their investments and their portfolio. So hopefully I'll be able to do the same for you here today. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Charlie. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Great to have you here, James. I know you've been smashing it in the Alpha Discord lately, helping people continue to make money with the recent dip we've seen lately. But so the agenda for today, what we are covering is we are going to show you a few ways that you can continue to spot high value opportunities and use defensive strategies during the market downturns, which we've seen over the last few months. We are going to show you how you can use on-chain data and on-chain insights to really strengthen your portfolio resilience. So again, ideally not lose any money when the market dips. And we're also going to show you some really, really exciting feature updates and recent improvements that have come to Nansen, specifically on token God mode, which is one of Nansen's most beloved features. But we'll then also have about 10-15 minutes for some Q&A towards the end, where you can pick James and my brain on maybe our perspective on the markets, on Nansen, whatever it might be, alpha, things like that. I am just about to start my screen share, but I'm going to show you the Luma link, which is the link that you can scan the QR code up here. And if you drop your Telegram in the Luma link, you register for the event, you can go into the draw to win a 6-month professional subscription for free, completely for free. And this 6-month professional subscription is worth just over $7,000 and can help you as an investor to make money and to ideally also defend your portfolio, which is what this session is all about. So you can scan this QR code right throughout the webinar. We'll also drop the link in the chat as well. Make sure you drop your Telegram in there, and ideally we will then be in touch with some good news. But alrighty, so otherwise I am going to start my screen share, and this should come up for you in just 1 second, and we're going to take a look at the Nansen platform together. Whether you're new to Nansen, whether you have used Nansen before, you're a bit of a seasoned expert, there is something in this call for everyone. So if you are new to Nansen, a quick summary of what it is all about is it's an on-chain analytics tool that is used by investors primarily for 3 things. The first is discovery of opportunities. The second is around performing due diligence. And the third is about defense. And that's really what we're going to be spending the time on today. Where Nansen is really unique is that we label wallets on chain. So you can know when there are certain entities, certain KOLs, interesting individuals that might be buying or selling in the market, giving you immediate visibility into what is happening on chain. So you can then potentially think about following in their footsteps. To speak very conceptually, if you know that there is a very profitable address that is looking to sell off a lot of their like a specific token, and they've done really well in the past, maybe they work at a certain fund, that can help you as an individual to get your edge in the markets too. And that's where we're going to spend a lot of time today. So Nansen also has a concept of smart money within the labeling, and it's represented by this little nerd emoji here. So we have 350 million wallets labeled across a bunch of different chains, but the most profitable 5,000 of those 350 million wallets are assigned this little nerd emoji. So it's really the 1% of the 1%. And without Nansen, you'd have no idea who's behind these addresses. You'd have no idea who smart money is, because all you see on the blockchain is a 0x blah, blah, blah address. So you can then follow smart money using Nansen to inform your investment decisions to become a better crypto investor yourself. And we're going to show you a few interesting defense-related workflows today, where you can track certain smart money movements and other entity movements so that you can ideally, again, not lose a cent by managing your portfolio better. So one thing I'd want to show as well is we've recently made some improvements to the tokens page, and more specifically, this we can start by looking at the DEX volume, and we can see that it looks like Memecoin has had a massive spike. We might need to take a look into this one, but just today actually. But otherwise, we can see there's been a little bit of a downtrend recently that has really been impacting many different sectors, whether it's like AI, whether it's yield bearing, scaling and connectivity, DeFi lending, and other sectors as well. AI agents has clearly taken quite a big hit. So is gaming, with a reduction of 77% in volume over the last 30 days. So when DEX volume tends to go down, generally the market shifts from a discovery market where people are looking for the next opportunity to instead a defense-based market where people are looking at how they can hold on to as much crypto as possible without losing a lot of their bags. So I thought this is always an interesting place to start, as DEX volume can be a big indicator, and we'll need to do some homework on exactly what Memecoin activity is driving this so high today. However, also just wanted to share, so I was recently at DAS in New York, which is a crypto conference, digital asset summit, and I very luckily had the chance to meet up with a bunch of fund managers, asset managers. It's a very institutional type event. And to give you some insight into how these big dogs are thinking about the crypto market at the moment, is that they're actually quite bullish. And this is a very different sentiment that we're seeing within the institutional realm of crypto compared to what we're seeing on crypto Twitter, etc. We're seeing and have seen for quite some months now quite a negative, quite a bearish sentiment around what's happening in crypto. But institutions feel very differently. I was speaking with a number of asset managers that are continuing to buy the dip and sitting on potentially a good chunk of money that they're waiting to deploy into Bitcoin at the 70K mark. And really, institutions have really been a little less talked about and there's been less buzz around institutions this market cycle compared to the last. But to know that an asset manager, someone that is really buying for the long term, has their finger on the pulse, ready to buy more crypto, I think that just really goes to show that we are not in the bear market just yet. There are many opportunities that you can still win on chain. And in recent webinars, we've seen many wins as well. So I think while the market is obviously being a bit rough for some of us over the last few months, having a tool like Nansen up your sleeve can just help you to navigate this a lot easier. While we have seen that meme coins have been down, there's sort of arguments around whether pump fund, etc., are dead. They have just launched a DEX within the last sort of week or so, and they're generating over $1 million in fees from launching that DEX. So I think there's still a lot of infrastructure and things coming our way, which is quite exciting. However, of course, this market cycle has been a little bit harder to win compared to the last. We've seen a lot of insiders, a lot of snipers, etc., which really just goes to show why you need a platform like Nansen to be able to find your edge in the markets, whether you are looking to discover opportunities, to defend, etc. Before I hand it over to James, who's going to show you some of our very, very exciting token God mode improvements, I did just want to share in our last call, our last webinar, we actually had a look at the Doge AI token on the 19th of February, and some of the on-chain analytics was looking quite bullish. And as we can see, the Doge AI token did quite well after that. So I think we're 4 out of 5 webinars now where we found a token that has performed very well after we've spotted some interesting on-chain data. So hopefully we'll spot some interesting opportunities today. So make sure you stick out, tune into the video recording on YouTube if you need to. Otherwise, I hope you can join us and ask some questions towards the end of the call. But I will hand it over to you, James. I know you've got some exciting things to show on Token God Mode.
Yes, thank you very much, Charlie. Just beginning to share my screen now. But what we're going to be looking at here is a completely new version of Token God Mode. What is Token God Mode in Nansen? This is where we answer all our questions on tokens. So if you want to see who's holding, who's buying, who's selling, this is the place to go. Now, 1 second, let me just pull this chart down. Apologies. Okay, so beforehand, a couple of the main changes that if you've used Nansen before that you'll see here is that we now have all our important transaction data in one place, and it's in a scrollable widget. So if you're live trading on the platform, you're never actually taken away from the action. You can see who's buying and selling live while also seeing chart movements, which is quite useful. And there's some other useful things in the who bought and who sold section, and some new functionality that we've brought in that I'll speak about in a minute. But also over here, we have information on the market cap, the circulating supply, and the buy and sell volumes. And this kind of information wasn't as readily available in our previous version, but in our new and improved version, it is here. There are a number of new features also coming to this Token God Mode within this transaction section, and also within the balances section, the exchanges section, smart money section. All these tabs are going to receive upgrades. So it's definitely something to keep an eye out on. Two new features that I think are extremely useful and go fly way under the radar is our candlestick inspector and our labels inspector. So what is this? Well, first off, let's take a look at the label inspector here. So if I click this, I'll be able to see smart money, whales, public figures, top P&L traders, and dev. And these are all labels. These are wallets that we have labeled. So the dev is kind of self-explanatory. Charlie explained to us what smart money is. And if I click on that label, on the 1 hour time frame, I'm going to be able to see on the chart where these traders bought and sold. And that should just drop in a minute here. So here you get an overview of what smart money are doing. So as we can see here, maybe smart money sold just before this peak and then bought again in this dip. And then there was a lot of accumulation in this zone. And you might be wondering, what do all the different letters mean? So B is for buy, sell, S is for sell, TI is token inflow, and TO is token outflow. And they are token flows that are not going to an exchange. So it looks like smart money received a lot of tokens here that didn't come from an exchange. Most likely they bought on a side wallet so that people wouldn't be able to track them, and then sent it to their main wallet, and that's why we're only seeing token inflows here. Something else then you might be very interested in is, let's say if we move it up to the 4-hour time frame, and we take a look at the candlestick inspector. What does the candlestick inspector mean? So we're seeing this strong uptrend here, and maybe we're interested in who bought in these specific candles. Like, this is a strong green candle. If you got in here, that would have been a nice move. That would have been a good opportunity to long. So I can just click on this candle after clicking on candle inspector up here, and it will show me down here, and I'll just scroll the chart up. It will show me down here who bought and who sold within that specific candle. So if you think about it like this, if you see one of your portfolio holdings drop massively and you're wondering, okay, who sold within that candle? Who created that candle, that big red candle? One way you can defend your portfolio is you come in, use the candlestick inspector, and you can find out who those sellers were. And then you can find out, is that meaningful information? You can find out, is it smart money selling, or are these just people looking to get out? This is one way you can defend your portfolio with these new features. So I think from here, I'm going to pass it back to Charlie. And later on, I'm going to give you some better examples of how we can use the candlestick inspector and the label inspector. Thank you very much, Charlie.
Thank you, James. Thank you. It's very interesting, the improvements that are coming on token God mode. This is really just the first of many, many improvements coming. So token God mode is how you can zoom into a particular token on chain and understand everything that you'd need to about that specific token, such as smart money activity, interesting flows, balances, who's buying at the time, who's selling at the time, etc. I wanted to show you an interesting example of where you can use Nansen for defense. And I like to track a fund called DACM. They're a very solid crypto fund. They have a very talented team. I've met them a couple of times myself in Sydney before, and really trust these guys. And I like to search for DACM in Nansen to see what they are buying and selling in real time. Because if I see them buying a particular token, given that their whole job is to make money for investors, I could probably say that these guys know a little bit more about crypto than I might, right? Like, their whole job is to make money. And my whole job is to use Nansen to then track how these guys are making money, to make money myself and to make money for our users. So what's really unique about Nansen is that you can search for a fund or an entity like DACM, like I just did, and I have one umbrella view of what they're doing on chain across all of their different addresses. I could search for just one address, but maybe I care about the whole fund, and that's what I'm looking at here. I can see their token balances across like Aave, Geode, Flip, etc. But what can be quite interesting from a defense perspective is when you notice that a fund might be sending tokens to a centralized exchange. Generally, when someone is sending tokens to a CEX, like Coinbase Prime in this example, they are selling off that asset. And this is a very clear example where DACM have received funds from an investor distribution contract from Stata Labs. They got their hands on about 12K of the SD token. So it's very likely that they provided like venture startup capital to Stata, and now there was like a vesting cycle, and now they have their hands on some of their SD. So not shortly after, only like a few hours later, they then sent to Coinbase Prime, which really just goes to show that these guys are selling off the asset. If I was an investor in SD myself, I would probably think about like, why are DACM selling this token? And if I was a holder of SD myself it might inform whether I also want to look to sell off my position. Especially as these tokens are like newly minted tokens, the fund's only able to get their hands on the token now. So there's essentially more in supply, which are now being immediately sold. So for this token specifically, this transaction looks quite bearish. But overall, you can use Nansen to build conviction around a certain asset, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, etc. And this is one of the examples that I often like to look at. So otherwise, I have another example that I would love to share on Pepe. Let me just share my screen again. There we go. So I'm using the token God mode feature again, which James was just showing to highlight some of the recent improvements on the transactions tab. But I really like to look at the P&L leaderboard. For me, I use Nansen a lot to discover profitable addresses. And often the way that I do this is by looking at a specific token and finding the addresses that have performed really, really well on it. Because if they've done well in the past on that particular token and they're still holding the token, it could suggest that they're going to sell at the right time in the future as well. So if I'm a Pepe holder and I don't quite know when to sell myself, I might instead look to rely on one of the addresses to give me a bit of a sell indicator by looking at what the top dogs do on the P&L leaderboard. As we can see here, there are some addresses. Some have quite funny ENS names, which for the sake of this call, I'm not going to read out. But anyway, there is this address, soulbigbrain.eth, and he's made 4.34 mil in realized gains of all time, but he still has 7.87 mil to eventually cash in. And he's got an ROI of 290%. What I can do here is use wallet profiler for token and bring up this address and the token side by side, and I can see exactly what this individual has done. If I then head to the daily tab, we can see that this guy was buying when the token was all the way down here. And he was buying a lot, represented by these big green buy circles. Here, when the token actually was doing quite well, he then sold quite a lot. And I'm sure he was quite happy with that trade. But as you see here, there was another massive green candle, and he then started selling off quite a lot more. So given that this guy has done very well in the past, twice, as we can see, that might suggest that I want to set up alerts on this address to notify me of when they sell in the future. So I can be notified immediately, even when I'm on the go, on Telegram, on Discord, or on Slack, when this guy sells Pepe in the future, or potentially even to signal to me when he buys Pepe in the future again. Like, this guy hasn't bought anything in over a year, really. But what's interesting, just recently, or about a month and a bit ago, in early February, he started buying again, and he did that across several transactions, as we can see. So potentially, this guy is actually quite long-term bullish on Pepe. So what I could do here is I could easily click on this, get notified about new wallet transactions. And I can then say, I only want you to tell me if transactions are over 10K or 100K, let's say. And I can then create an alert and go through the alert functionality set up with Telegram, Discord, or Slack. Nice thing is there's some very, very handy instructions right here on if it's your first time getting this set up. So what I might also do is head to the address to understand more about his P&L and total balance. And it looks like Pepe really is his top holding. So this is really an address to care about. And given that it is an address to care about, I can then actually set a custom label. I can change the wallet name. I might say like top P&L Pepe, and I might also add a label here as well. And then save that label. And anytime that I then see that, let me just go back to the Pepe token. If I head to the P&L leaderboard, it will now display slightly differently as top Pepe P&L. So this is a really interesting way to track and monitor the addresses that you care about and be alerted in real time while you're on the go, so you know when to sell. Because given that this guy has a lot to cash in, if he started selling everything today, given that he's made so much money in the past, that also might inform your decision making. Alrighty, so that is what I have to share for now. I know James has some really interesting activity by monitoring a token that's been deployed just this week, as well as I believe it's Aero as well. So I'll hand it over to you, James, to show some interesting fund activity and also some interesting Memecoin activity.
Hey Charlie, thank you very much. So yes, first up here, we're going to look at Aero. And I showed you a bit about the candlestick inspector earlier, the label inspector. Let's say for Aero, if we put on the smart money label inspector, we should be able to get a view of what is smart money doing with Aero right now. Let's say last year I was pretty interested in Aero myself because was that the smart money one? Sorry. Last year I was pretty interested in Aero myself because there was a lot of funds buying. So now I'm interested in seeing what are they doing with it now. So it looks like there might be some kind of market making wallet in here that is doing a lot of the token inflows. But at the same time, we might have someone selling a lot right here. So what I can do to get a better view of this is I switch this to a 7-day time frame because this was over 24 hours ago, and I want to see who the biggest sellers were in the last 7 days. And right up the top, I can see one of these is Defiance Capital, and that's pretty interesting to me because we know, and it's something we covered in one of our previous webinars, but the leader of Defiance Capital, Arthur, was pretty bullish on Aero. So it's an interesting flow to see that he is now, or to see that Defiance Capital is now selling Aero. Something else we can do here to get a better understanding of what was done over the last 7 days is that we can click this advanced filter. This advanced filter will also be able to tell us, did they buy anything in the last 7 days and did they sell anything, all within the one view. So one thing I can do to see, how did Defiance Capital perform on this position is I can click into the wallet label here. If I go to the P&L tab, I see that Defiance Capital actually lost. So they sold the position at a $2.4 million loss. And that's interesting because Aero is already down. We can see that base volumes are going down, which is where Aero is based. And this could mean that there is potentially more downside for Aero, or at the very least, even if the market moves up, maybe funds and institutions aren't as bullish on Aero. Maybe they think there are better horses to pick in the race. Charlie, you mentioned earlier DACM. There's someone else that I was watching last year. They were accumulating Aero. Let's see what they did with their Aero position. So if we take a look over here, we can see that, at the start of January, they had about 5 million in Aero. On top of that, Aero was again losing a lot of value in this time frame, but we see about mid-February, they actually exited their Aero position completely. And that's something that, as Charlie mentioned, if you set up alerts on funds, maybe you set up an alert that is tracking funds when they transfer over 100K, this is something you would have been able to catch. And what they then did was they rotated into what looks to be a better position in their eyes, which is Aave. They really doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on Aave. They had about 1.3 million, and now they at one stage had 12.8 million. So this is now their biggest holding that we have tracked on Nansen, which is pretty interesting. And this again all started from the token god mode, the token god mode analyzing who bought, who sold over the last 7 days, getting a temperature check on what smart money are doing right now with a token that might be in your portfolio, so that you can arm yourself with the information needed to make the right decision. So one other token that I've seen a lot of people talking about lately is Ghibli. I hope I'm saying that right. So what are some of the things we can do here? This token performed pretty well, so this might be a good one to check. What have smart money done with Ghibli over the last 24 hours? Because I don't think it's more than 24 hours old. So maybe this view isn't good enough. So let's drop it down to 15 minutes. And by the way, you can actually drop these timeframes down to as low as 10 seconds. So again, if you're live trading, this is one of the great new things that we have here, but I'll leave it at 15 minutes. We see a lot of activity here. There seemed to be definitely more selling along this uptrend here. But at the same time, there seems to be a lot of inflows and a lot of token buying in the last few hours. So that could be a signal, and it's something we'll definitely keep an eye out on. And actually, I'll take this opportunity to give a shout out to Felipe, who caught this at 2.2 million in the Alpha Discord. Big props to you, Felipe, helping people make money. Love to see it. Another thing that we might like to do here is check what is the dev doing. So again, I clicked the label inspector here, and then I clicked on dev here. We should see something pop up on the chart here. Okay, so immediately we see that the dev moved tokens out of his wallet, but they didn't necessarily go to an exchange. So how might you try and figure out what he did or she? So if we come over here, we can see that they transferred tokens out at 2 minutes past 10. So I'm going to take the candlestick inspector. I'm going to go down to this candle, and I'm going to click here. Oh, I'll actually need to scroll down here. And I should be able to, yeah, so now I can, so this is showing me who bought and who sold within that candle. And if I click on the transfers tab, I can also see the transfers in that window. And what I see here is this token deployer. So 1235 token deployer. And I see this is the address that deployed Ghibli. Because if you see in this preview of the address, I can see Ghibli token deployer. So what I'll do is go wallet profiler for token, and see where did they send those funds. And again, this is a defensive workflow that you can use to find out what a dev is doing on a new token that you are interested in. So I see there's a few different addresses that they sent these tokens to. I'm going to take this one as an example. We're tracking this dev through the wallet profiler for token. And we can see that they have actually been selling quite a few tokens. Although it looks like they perhaps might have taken some back out of their DCA order. Maybe they realized it was a mistake. So perhaps that's bullish. And they haven't been selling as much from this wallet, it looks like. Although if we come down here, we can see their balance over time, which is over the last 24 hours. And I can see that their balance has actually come down quite a bit from what they had in the beginning. And another useful thing is we can see what the value of the tokens were at the time they sold. So we see here, this is value at the time of the transaction, and this is the value now. So they actually missed out on a lot of large gains. We see here they sold something on Pump Fund for what seems to be $500, and it now would have been worth 2.8K. So they definitely could have got more gains, but right now they seem to be holding the rest of their bag, which seems kind of bullish. And the selling that the dev was doing didn't seem to impact price, which also shows that there was quite a bit of demand for Ghibli. So it looks kind of like a bullish setup, although the market is quite the market is down at the minute, these opportunities are still available and people are winning. And these kind of tools here can help you find the winners and determine what's good and what's bad. So I think with that, Charlie, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Great. Thank you, James. And yeah, interesting what's been happening on Ghibli. I actually just noticed that one of our affiliates has recently created a post on Ghibli, not a Mickey. I would suggest following this guy. He posts a lot of really great content and is always on the ball of what's happening on chain. So would definitely suggest checking out some of his insights, some of his screenshots, and you can tap into some of the minds of the real experts by looking at many affiliates. So would suggest looking at this guy, but also just a little bit more about Alpha as well. So Alpha is a community of like premium crypto investors. It's really where a lot of smart money investors hang out, share Alpha, discuss, debate markets, etc. And Sean is one of the community managers in Alpha. So is James, actually. And he has just been winning left and right based on some of the recent smart alerts that Felipe has created. And as Sean said here, Nansen in crypto is easy mode. He got a nearly 5x in just a few hours off a token. So love to see Sean winning. Love to see all our other Alpha community members winning as well. So to get access to Alpha, you need an annual professional subscription, but the subscription price is pretty negligible compared to some of the Alpha that you can discover in that community. I wanted to share another recent example of news that all of us will be aware of. Our good friends over at Bybit were hacked in February, and I wanted to show you an interesting way that you could use Nansen to monitor these large outflows from Bybit, but also what you can do to monitor outflows from sexes in future. That could also be a bit of an anomaly. It's really key to consider counterparty risk as well from a defense perspective. We've previously seen exchanges go under when they've been hacked, which has then caused a bit of like a bank run on the centralized exchange where people then try to withdraw all their funds and the exchange doesn't have enough money to cover those customer deposits. And unfortunately, things have imploded. Bybit was a very different story. They handled the situation very, very well. They were extremely transparent and jumping on live stream within about 45 minutes after the outflows happened. So I wanted to show you how you can use Nansen to track some of that activity. So I'm looking at Bybit here. We've got about 15 bill of their activity labeled. And just going off memory, the hack was, I believe, on about the 21st of February. So I'm just going to increase the date range somewhat. Going to include ETH here as the token symbol. And I'm just going to put the value as very high. And let's see what we can see here. We can see those two transactions where the Bybit wallet had a drain of 248 mil of staked ETH and 1.1 bill of ETH, which then moved over to the Bybit exploiter. It was really interesting using Nansen live in real time to then see how the Bybit exploiter then were pushing out their transactions to a bunch of other addresses, which I was using the counterparties tab to monitor. But wanted to show you a bit on the smart alerts and just how powerful this can be to monitor potentially the next Bybit or centralized exchange hack. So what I like to do is set up a token transfer alert. And what's key to think about when doing this is, do you want to monitor outflows, which is represented in the from field, or do you want to monitor inflows, which is going to be the to field? So what we have here is if I wanted to monitor a outflow, so a large transaction going out of a centralized exchange, I have a few ways that I can do that. So I could say, maybe I'm tracking a specific entity. Maybe you have a lot of money on a centralized exchange, something like Bybit. I can then plug in Bybit as the entity there and set a minimum of, like, anytime there's $100 million, let's say, leaving this Bybit exchange, regardless of which address it is, you want to be notified in Telegram, Discord, or Slack. Another way you can do it is by instead relying on Nansen's labels. So maybe you don't care about one specific entity. Maybe you care if it's any exchange address across any entity. Here, I could also select a specific token if I really wanted to. So it can be quite interesting to monitor large stable coin inflows and outflows as well. So you can select many stables if you need to. So I could plug in USDC here, for example. Maybe I just care about certain chains as well. So this could be really interesting. So if we think about another workflow that we looked at today, I might be also interested in knowing when a specific fund is sending to an exchange. So I could say anytime that DACM send funds to an exchange at over 100K, I want to know about it, because that probably means that DACM is selling off a position. Alternatively, you might be more interested in knowing when DACM might be receiving funds from a centralized exchange, which could suggest buy activity. So here I could say DACM, anytime that there is an outflow from any exchange into one of their wallets, you want to know about it, because you might think to follow in their footsteps as well. So I would really encourage all of you to spend a lot of time playing around with this token transfer alert. It is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And there's many ways that you can customize it depending on what you're looking at in crypto. So I will move on in a moment, but I did just want to give just a quick reminder of the Luma page that we have. So if you scan the code up in the top left of your screen, you'll be taken over to this page, which is where you can register for this event. And you'll actually go into the draw to win a professional subscription, which is valid for 6 months, which is worth just over $7,000. If you also submit your Telegram here, happy to announce that we'll be able to share a discount code with you as well, which you'll be able to apply on checkout, get a discount, and then also go into the draw to win a free professional subscription. So there's a few good reasons as to why you'd want to register. Drop your Telegram in there, and you might hear from our team shortly. So before we move on to the Q&A as well, I wanted to share a little bit more about Nansen's research portal as well. So Nansen is really known for on-chain data, but we do also give market commentary on what's happening in the space, what are we seeing on chain, and it can be really helpful to get qualitative perspectives from analysts, so true crypto market experts that can provide some color to what is happening on chain. And Aurelie here is our head of research, and she's recently put this article together that potentially the worst has we've already seen in this little dip, and potentially things might be turning a little bit more bullish. So here we have some interesting macro related data that you can also use to inform your investment decision making. But one thing I did want to share that's quite interesting is that Nansen has actually built out our own unique signals as well that are built on our proprietary data. And it's actually exclusive for alpha members on the professional annual plan. And I just wanted to give you an example of one metric that I quite like to use. This is just one of the many signals that we have built out, but specifically this chart here, which should make its way into the app very soon, and all of you guys will be able to get your hands on it. But it's the Smart Money Stablecoin indicator. And this can be a really great way, a macro indicator to know what does smart money think of the market at the moment. Are they bullish? Are they bearish? Are they risk on, risk off, etc.? When you see that the stablecoin amount is increasing, generally that means that like people are less active in the market. They're sitting on stables because they're trying to defend their portfolios. But what's interesting is that there's been a little bit of a dip lately where we've seen smart money buying more, going more risk on. So potentially we're seeing some signs again that the market is shifting and things might really turn around. So I love to use Nansen, like Alpha, the community, some of the proprietary indicators here, some of the research, and then also the on-chain activity, which we've really been focusing on today to help defend my positions. So, James, I know you wanted to share a little bit more about what we recently saw on Jelly Jelly, which has been pretty big news over the last sort of day or so. I know we've got just a couple minutes for this before we crack into some Q&A. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Charlie. So I'm just going to share a different tab. This is, yes, the Jelly Jelly tab. So basically what I want to show is that a lot of the times if you use Twitter, you'll see people talking about what's happening with Jelly Jelly, but maybe you don't understand how to access that data yourself and how to find out this information easily. And one of the things you can do is use Nansen. So let's say, again, we can use the candlestick inspector, which we saw how to use earlier. We see this big green candle here, and we can click on this candle to see, again, who created that candle. So within that hourly candle, we saw that there are some pretty big buyers. There's two wallets in particular that are outliers. You know, we have some wallets here buying 85K, 58K, and then randomly we have two wallets buying 961K and 1.66 million. And this is quite a lot, and clearly they are outliers. So to give a bit of an overview of what happened with Jelly Jelly, a very simplistic explanation is that someone forced themselves to be liquidated on Hyperliquid, which forced Hyperliquid to inherit their bad position, that losing position. And then over here, they pumped the price. And this all happened at the same time to ensure that Hyperliquid ended up taking the loss. Now, I'm not going to comment on what happened after. That's just a way of looking at it. And I suppose what I want to do here is arm you with the tools on how you can decipher what's happening, find addresses that are related to what's happening, and also defend yourself. Because maybe you're wondering, okay, well, how can I find these large deposits that are going to Hyperliquid? So I'm going to just switch tabs here, and I'm going to go into the Nansen profiler, and we're looking at the wallet address for the Hyperliquid bridge. And if you see here, I can filter the value by, let's say, 1 million. And I can see the largest withdrawals and deposits to Hyperliquid over the last year. And you might be wondering, how do I get alerts for this? Again, you'll see that we are very alert focused, because a lot of the time you want to receive these updates without actually having to go through all this data every time, load up the screen. You want to be able to be on the move and just catch these alerts. You can use your Smart Alert. You can use advanced. We can use the token transfer. And if you copy and paste the Smart Alert address in here, and you set this to over 1 million, and you set the token to USDC, every time there is over 1 million deposited to Hyperliquid, you will get an alert. And again, this is just another way that you can use to defend your portfolio using Nansen. So hopefully that gives you a bit of insights there. Maybe the last thing I'll share, and we'll just use Jelly Jelly as an example. Earlier, I showed you that there was, we have this new volume data. You can see more on liquidity, market cap, things like that. But what I didn't show was down here, we have stuff that audits smart contracts for us. and goes through some of the data for us. So we see 16 past smart contract checks and supply checks here. And this can help you decipher whether a token is high risk or low risk. Perhaps it might be able to predict that something could possibly become a honeypot. For example, if it has freeze authorization, it could potentially become a honeypot at some stage. Now, these checks aren't always 100%. In the sense that you're not always going to be able to predict a scam based on these checks. But the idea is you want to avoid scams as much as possible. And this is one way of doing it right here in Nansen. And on top of that, you can also see what snipers are doing. And this is a very new thing to Nansen. We actually didn't have any sniper data before, and now we do. So all these new tokens you see coming out, you can check what they're doing or what the snipers are doing, and if there's many snipers. For example, in the beginning, there were many snipers on Jelly Jelly, but 80% of them are out now. And that's useful information to have when you're trying to make a decision on whether or not you want to enter a token. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here on this part and pass it back to you, Charlie. I think now we can begin the Q&A.
Great. Thank you, James. Really interesting stuff on token God mode. I believe that a lot of it's been launched for professional users today, which is really exciting. So the way that our release cycles work is that whenever we ship anything to Nansen, professional users will get their hands on it 2 weeks before the rest of the market will, or before the rest of Nansen users will, which is really actually quite a compelling benefit of joining professional, because often Nansen leads the way in bringing new analytics features to the market, and to be able to be one of the first like several hundred people in the whole of crypto that can get access to data that you can't find anywhere else, it can just really give you your edge on chain. So happy to share that that's live today. There's going to be a lot more coming for token God mode over the coming weeks as well. So if you sign up to the Luma, which is on the QR code, we'll be in touch on Telegram with a discount code which you can use for professional. And if you want to join our alpha community as well, just make sure that you select the annual professional plan. I think we have the next question coming up in just a moment. Is there an ambassador program? Yes, we do have an affiliate program at Nansen. We will drop the link in the chat. Otherwise, you can just head to nansen.ai/affiliates, and you can leave some information on how you're creating content at the moment. And we will be in touch to get you set up with access to Nansen to help you accrue points for referring others to Nansen, to generate USDC that we'll send out to your wallet every month as well in exchange for referring users. So great to see you've been talking about Nansen for a while. And yeah, definitely drop your information in that page and we'll be in touch within at latest a week. James, I might let you take this one.
Yes, I might have to actually just double check here, because we have about, I think, up to 20 chains right now. So I can't remember them all. Unfortunately not. It does not look like we support Starknet just yet, but Starknet is coming soon. I've got word from our GTM team just there. So looking forward to that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it should be coming in the second half of the year, or maybe around mid-year, really. So we're looking to push that out when we can. How to join the Alpha channel. So to join Alpha, you need an annual professional subscription. So once you jump on board with that, you can use the discount code that we will ping to you on Telegram if you leave your handle in the Luma, which you can access by scanning the QR code in the top left. Then once you're on board, our team will be in touch, get you set up in Alpha, and introduce you to the rest of the smart money community, and we can all win together on chain and off chain. James, I'll let you take this one, mate.
Yes, I'll take this one. So on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find our previous webinars. So this is the 5th one we've done, but we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 there. And each webinar, we take different topics, try and approach Nansen with a different goal. So let's say today we focus on defending portfolio. How can you use alerts? How can you use token God mode to find out what has happened and get ahead of what's about to happen? In other webinars, we looked at smart money, we looked at things like token discovery. They're the kind of ones where we saw Doge AI, and I think we got a couple of good wins in our first webinars too. So I would encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and find some resources there.
Yeah, you can head to academy.nansen.ai, and we have a bunch of different guides there that we've recently created. But really, if you're looking to 10x your Nansen ability, really Alpha is the place to be. That's where we have our best on-chain sleuths, research analysts pumping insights on-chain into Alpha as well. Otherwise, you can, of course, continue to tune into these webinars, check out our other videos on the YouTube channel, etc. Do we have another question coming up? I just saw another question in the chat. In which subscription plan will these new enhancements be for Token God mode? So it will be for eventually for Pioneer users as well. There are some things that are professional only. I believe the label inspector is professional only. That's what James was showing when looking at the dev wallet activity, the smart money wallet activity. So there are some great on-chain improvements on the professional plan beyond just Alpha as well. But over the next fortnight, you can expect to see a little bit more coming your way, Teddy. Okay. Well,
Just sorry to interrupt you there, Charlie. One thing I might respond to in the chat here is that Goro Gorov said, "Hi, I'm using the professional version. I'm also well aware of how to deal with on-chain activity and tracking, but would like to get in touch with the team." Yeah, if you're on the professional version, if you can drop your Telegram name in the chat, I'll be happy to reach out to you and we can get in touch. You should have a CSM, but if you don't have a CSM connected to you already, let's get that going. I can be your CSM and make sure that you get the most out of the platform.
And if you'd rather not drop your Telegram in the chat directly, feel free just to open a ticket in our main Discord and just let us know that you came from the webinar chat, and we'll be able to get you set up in Alpha.
Yeah, just say James sent me from the webinar. Please put me in touch with James.
Nice. But otherwise, I think that wraps up things today. Again, quick summary, make sure to follow us on X at Nansen_AI, and also be sure to scan the QR code up in the top left. You'll get a discount code sent to you by Telegram, and you'll also go into the draw to win a $7,000 professional subscription for 6 months. And also would love to see you all at the next webinar as well, which will we generally do them every month. But otherwise, thanks for all your engagement. Thanks for commenting, leaving questions. It was great to be here with all of you today. So thank you. Otherwise, good luck on defending your portfolios, and good luck finding Alpha as well.
See you guys. Thank you very much. See you next